it pays to plan ahead. And that is especially true with trust and probate issues. If you could use a little help if you are entering litigation, our next guest is here to guide you.
Absolutely. Russel Geist. He is a partner with Hutchison and Steffen, and he's joining us now to kind of clear the air when it comes to this type of stuff. How are you, sir?
Good morning. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. Obviously, we don't deal with trust administration and probate on a daily basis. But explain what the difference between those two things are and why there be a reason rather, for litigation when it comes to either of these areas.
Absolutely. Trust administration deals with a trust, which is really simply an agreement between a person who hands assets to a person to manage it. We call the person who creates the trustor, and then the person who manages those assets is the trustee. And the whole purpose of the trust is to manage it on behalf of a person who's the beneficiary. They get the benefit of those assets, and it could be a house, could be cash, could be whatever. The administration of the trust is simply following those terms in that trust agreement, making sure that beneficiary is taken care of. Probate administration is the court process that will be followed when someone dies, whether they have a will or they don't have a will, and they have assets in their name. And the court oversees everything from gathering those assets to paying expenses and debts of the decedent, and then finally giving everything to the beneficiaries when they're deceased. If there's ever a dispute in either trust administration or probate administration, whether it's a dispute between the beneficiary and the trustee or the executor, or a dispute among beneficiaries, then that can often lead to litigation where the courts have to get involved and resolve that dispute.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we go back for a moment and talk about beneficiaries? I think, who doesn't want to be passed on assets? I mean, it sounds, really exciting. And then I think when it happens, it can be a tremendous responsibility. And in some cases, even a burden. What do you advise? What can beneficiaries expect from a trustee or an executor in a trust administration, or even if things, go through probate?
Definitely. Beneficiaries are often in uncharted territory, as you said. We don't often get to be in this position where we are the benefit of either a trust or a probate estate, thankfully. But the thing they need to understand is that the trustee and the executor owe certain legal obligations to the beneficiaries. We call them fiduciary duties. And those duties could be, for instance, a duty of loyalty, where a trustee has a duty to not benefit himself or herself with the assets of the trust to the detriment of the beneficiaries. Now, a trustee can, for instance, be compensated for his or her time spent on administering the trust, but they can't just take the assets for their own benefit. It's for the beneficiary. There's also a duty to provide an accounting to the beneficiaries, where they have to say what has taken place with the assets of either the trust or the estate, what expenses were paid, debts were paid before the distribution was made to the beneficiary.
Yeah. When it comes to trying to pick an attorney, though, why would you reach out to a probate and trust litigation attorney when you might have an attorney already that created an estate plan, or maybe one that helped you with a divorce?
Yeah. Trust and estate administration is such a unique area of law, and it's really different from other areas. There are definitely traps for the unwary in this area of law, so that a person who is an attorney who is a fantastic attorney but a generalist, or practices in a completely different area of law, they may not be aware of those certain specific issues that can come up in a probate or a trust administration case that could make it difficult for the beneficiary to navigate through. Or if they're advising a trustee, they may not be providing that trustee enough information because these issues are difficult to handle, and they're definitely very volatile. At Hutchison and Steffen, we believe in a team approach. We work with estate planning attorneys. We work with the attorneys who actually created the plan for their clients, and they come to us if there is a dispute, because they often don't like to get involved in the litigation.
Yeah.
So we involve them, we involve CPAs, we involve other professionals to make sure that all aspects are covered.
Excellent. Great advice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Right, if you want to learn more about Hutchison and Steffen, go to hutchlegal.com. The number right there on your screen, 385-2500. Hutchison and Steffen, a proud sponsor of The Morning Blend.